They tell you men are creatures of lust. They tell you men wake up thinking about sex, spend the day chasing it, and fall asleep dreaming of it. That's the myth. But a myth is not the truth. A myth is a convenient story society tells, repeated so many times that it begins to sound like reality. Yet reality is far deeper, far sharper. The myth says men are slaves to desire. But a man who is enslaved to anything is not a man at all. He is weak, he is ruled, he is conquered. The truth is this: not every man always wants sex, and the strongest men are often the ones least desperate for it. Power is not in chasing, but in choosing. Society laughs at this. Women joke about it. Men feel pressure to prove it. Yet the Stoic path does not bend to social pressure. It bends only to truth. A man who always wants sex is seen as normal. A man who doesn't is seen as broken. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if the myth is the lie? I will show you timeless principles that separate the strong from the weak. Principles that reveal why this myth exists, how it controls men, and how to break free. Weakness kills attraction. A man who cannot control himself is not attractive, no matter how much he tries to mask his desperation. A man who begs for intimacy becomes invisible in her eyes. The Stoics taught that the man who cannot govern his impulses is unfit to govern anything else. If he cannot master himself, he cannot master his destiny, his woman, or his life. The myth of always wanting sex breeds weakness. It conditions men to chase, to beg, to perform. But the man who is whole in himself does not beg. He selects. Psychology confirms it. Desire without restraint creates anxiety, and anxiety kills attraction. The man who chases validation through sex is the man who loses the very respect he craves. The transformation is simple but brutal. Stop chasing, stop proving, stop confirming what society expects of you. Let your presence be stronger than your hunger. Let your calmness speak louder than your appetite. Another truth: abundance creates freedom. A man who thinks sex is scarce clings to it. A man who knows it is plentiful walks calmly, because he has no fear of missing out. The man who fears missing out on sex is always grasping. But the man who knows he can walk away holds the power, because walking away is strength, clinging is weakness. Evolutionary psychology teaches us that women instinctively test whether a man can resist temptation. If you fold at the first opportunity, she knows you are ruled by desire, not ruling your desire. But when you are calm, when you are unmoved, when you are not desperate to prove you want her, that is when she wants you more. Because control is magnetic. The paradox of desire is this: the more you need it, the less you get it. The less you need it, the more it is offered to you. That is masculine law. Weak men collapse into the arms of temptation. Strong men stand tall, and if they embrace with choice, not desperation. Choice makes a man king. Desperation makes him servant. Another lesson: sex is not the prize. It is not the validation of your manhood. It is not the stamp of approval that says you are worthy. Your worth is forged before. If sex is your measure of masculinity, you will always be poor. If sex is your fuel for self-esteem, you will always be empty. But if strength is your measure, you never run out. The Stoics would laugh at the modern obsession with constant desire. Marcus Aurelius wrote of disciplining the flesh, not worshipping it, for he knew that the man ruled by pleasure is already defeated. A disciplined man understands that sex is part of life, but not the purpose of life. It is an experience, not an identity. It is a choice, not a compulsion. When you see sex as compulsion, you chain yourself. When you see it as choice, you free yourself. And freedom, not frenzy, is the essence of masculine strength. The myth tells men to chase women endlessly, but women are not drawn to the chase, they are drawn to the calmness of the man who does not need to chase. A lion does not beg the gazelle to come close. He waits. He watches. He moves with precision when it matters. Men who live in frantic desire have lost their lionhood. Chasing is the act of the insecure. Walking calmly is the act of the powerful. Women can sense the difference in seconds. One reeks of need. The other radiates strength. This is why some men are irresistible even when they do nothing. Their restraint is more attractive than another man's begging, because restraint signals power, and power is the ultimate magnet. Weak men sell themselves for scraps of intimacy. Strong men never sell themselves. They either share their presence or they walk away. Either way, they remain whole. Self-mastery is not the absence of desire. It is the control of desire. It is the ability to choose when, where, and with whom you open yourself. It is never being enslaved. The myth of always wanting sex is poison, because it erodes your discipline. It tells you to indulge every impulse, to act without thought, to collapse into weakness, and weakness never commands respect. Respect is the currency of attraction. Without it, sex becomes hollow, fleeting, empty, but with respect, intimacy becomes fire, passion, and meaning. Only strong men earn respect, because only strong men master themselves. Psychology again shows us that novelty triggers dopamine, but dopamine fades. Men who are ruled by dopamine become addicts, chasing the next high. Men who master themselves use desire as fuel, not as chains. A disciplined man does not reject sex. He rejects enslavement. He refuses to let society tell him he must always want it. Because sometimes the strongest act is to say no. Saying no shocks people. Women expect you to say yes. Society expects you to prove yourself. But when you say no calmly, with no anger and no guilt, you shatter the myth. That moment of refusal is not weakness, is the ultimate display of strength. It proves you are not ruled by impulse. It proves you are not desperate. It proves you choose. A man who chooses is rare. A man who chooses is respected. A man who chooses is never forgotten. Because choice is power, and power is the essence of masculinity. So, how do you live this? You start by questioning the story. You stop believing you are broken if you don't want sex every moment. You stop equating manhood with hunger. You remind yourself daily, masculinity is not measured by how often you chase women. Masculinity is measured by how rarely you are enslaved by anything, whether money, fame, pleasure, or desire. The man who controls himself controls everything. The man who cannot control himself controls nothing. That is why the myth is dangerous. It tricks men into surrendering control in the name of manhood. The transformation requires brutal honesty. Ask yourself, do you want her or do you need her? Do you desire her or do you depend on her? Desire without dependence is power. Dependence is slavery. When you stand in power, women feel it. They sense the difference. You no longer seek validation. You no longer beg. You no longer prove. You simply are. And being is stronger than proving. You will see the change. Conversations shift. Eyes linger longer. Respect deepens. Because your calmness makes you dangerous. Your restraint makes you unpredictable. And unpredictability makes you magnetic. The myth collapses in the presence of real strength. A man who does not always want sex breaks the stereotype. He confuses the weak. He entreats the strong. He becomes something rare, and rarity is what the world respects. Rarity is what women desire. Rarity is what separates the masses from the masters. You must choose which side you stand on. Men ruled by desire drown in the noise. Men who master desire rise above it, and from above, everything looks different. The world bends to the man who is unbent. Remember this. Sex is not the proof of your manhood. Self-mastery is. Walking away is. Choosing is. Restraining is. A man is not made by his lust. He is made by his control. The myth was designed to keep you weak, distracted, predictable. Break it, and you reclaim your strength. Break it, and you step into the realm of true masculinity. The Stoics would call this freedom. Freedom from compulsion, freedom from the tyranny of impulse, freedom from the lies of society. To be free is to be strong, and to be strong is to be desired. Do not be fooled. Weak men will laugh at you for not fitting the stereotype. But remember, weak men laugh at what they cannot do, and they cannot master themselves. The strong man does not laugh at others. He builds himself. He disciplines himself. He grows silently, and his presence speaks louder than any myth or stereotype ever could. So I leave you with this. The myth of men always wanting sex is not truth. It is a trap. The truth is that strength is restraint, and restraint is freedom. Choose freedom. Choose discipline. Choose calmness over chaos. Choose walking away over chasing. Choose mastery over slavery. In that choice, you will discover what masculinity truly is. And when you embody that, you become unstoppable. Not because you always want, but because you do not always need. And that is the paradox of power. So take these principles, live them daily, and watch the myth crumble before your eyes. Women will respect you, men will envy you, and you will respect yourself. If this message struck you, remember, masculinity is built, not given. Discipline is chosen, not forced, and strength is practiced, not performed. Walk this path, and you will never be weak. Thank you for listening, my brother. If you found truth here, share it. Subscribe, stay with me, and keep sharpening your mind. Because together, we are building men of steel.